Hey everyone, I don't really have an intro for this one because I'm just completely and utterly dead inside after watching the most recent Star Wars TV show, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, so right off the bat, since Star Wars came back after like a 10-year hiatus, I mean, we did have the Clone Wars and stuff like that, but I'm talking about when it really started to hit mainstream media. Well, I wouldn't say mainstream media, but like when it started to get the attention of the public a hell of a lot more again. I mean, people loved the Clone Wars show, but Star Wars was more talked about when the sequels started to come out and, you know, the whole Disney phase and everything like that. Ever since that started, it kind of seems like we got into an okay foot, an okay start with The Force Awakens, and then it just went downhill from there. And it's like, there doesn't feel to be any hope for Star Wars anymore. This franchise is losing everything going for it in terms of entertainment value, story, emotional connection. The stuff in it now which just kind of ruins and dampens your perspective on the originals. I mean, you have to sort of watch the originals now, or the prequels if you're a fan of the prequels, and sort of try and block out the fact that the sequel trilogy and the Disney Plus shows is where some story points lead. It's really, really difficult to sort of ignore that kind of stuff. And that's what I want to get into today. I want to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I watched it on Disney Plus. I got through it in about 3 days. I'm kind of thinking to myself I keep saying that. Like, I keep saying that whenever I watch a TV show and then afterwards I leave. I don't leave. I watch it at home, so I don't leave my own home, do I? You leave a cinema after you see a film, but you don't leave your own home after seeing a TV show. Can you imagine if I did that? Like, I was watching a TV show and then I sort of went, okay, it's finished now. I'm just going to leave my house and never come back. But yeah, okay, so when I was done watching Obi-Wan Kenobi, I was left with the feeling of, you know, disbelief that this is what we got after 20 years. I mean, I'm kind of getting sick of the quote now, you know, sick of the catchphrase. Is it a catchphrase? I'm getting sick of the thing where you see it all online, like, no one hates Star Wars fans more than Star Wars fans. Like, I don't hate Star Wars fans, okay? I just can't help but side with the majority of them, you know, see what they're saying. Like, you may argue that, oh, yeah, well, this is the first time we've had an Obi-Wan TV show. You should be lucky that we have one. Which my argument to that would be fair enough. But at the same time, we're lucky that we have one, yes. But you still want quality, right? You don't want a half-assed, rushed piece of crap thrown at you. You want the character that you grew up with in the prequels to be done justice to, right? You want him to thrive. You want him to, you want to well, not care about the character again, but like, you want to care about what happens next. And in this TV show, I just felt none of that. It was just so bland, and but the thing which frustrates me the most about Obi-Wan Kenobi is that I could see moments of greatness in this show, but that's all they are, moments. There doesn't seem to be anything of merit where I can go, oh yeah, that was super memorable, that was absolutely great. Because it's kind of overshadowed by everything else going for it, like useless padding and filler plot points and characters you don't really give a shit about. I mean, if they fixated this entire thing on the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin and just how torn apart they've become over these last 10 years, because this is 10 years since Revenge of the Sith, according to this show anyway. There are moments like that, but they just fly by so quickly that they just leave no impression on you, no impact. You're not thinking of the situation afterwards. You're just thinking of, oh, they could have done this to it, they could have done that to it, but that's not what you want to think about. I mean, when you think of films like Lord of the Rings and some of the epic, emotional, climactic moments that happen in that, they stick in your mind for a long time, even in Star Wars. But I just don't see any of that in this TV show. And so I've got a couple of bullet points in front of me, and I just want to go by them through bit by bit, and see if I can break this down. I mean, obviously this will be a shorter episode than what this podcast would normally be, because it's just me at the moment. I don't have a guest on, so it's just me. Alright, so really what I want to dive into first is Hayden Christensen. Now, it was fantastic. It was fantastic seeing Hayden Christensen come back after all these years. I mean, I was generally excited, because what really, really pisses me off about this TV show is that Hayden's credibility was kind of ruined with the backlash of the prequels. I mean, since then he's got a lot of love and praise, which is amazing. It's like time has been kinder to the prequels than when they first came out, and I generally think that the guy is a great actor. I can see it in him. It's like when you watch his stuff, even in bad films like Jumper, I mean, you just watch it and you just know that if the script were better, if the writing were better, if everything going for that film was better, Hayden Christensen would absolutely kill it. I mean, there's one film which I can think of. It was called The Last Man on Earth, or The Last Man Standing on Earth, or something like that. Literally one of the worst films I saw in 2018, I believe, or 2019. I can't remember, but I remember watching that, and while the film was bad, Hayden Christensen's acting in that was actually pretty damn good. But the source material that he was given... Sorry, not source material. The material that he was given just wasn't enough to, singulate it into something amazing. I mean, it's really, really frustrating when this sort of stuff happens. Because I can see Hayden Christensen being pretty badass in the film if he was given the right sort of direction. Better lines of dialogue. I mean, I think the lines that he's given in some films is just absolutely abysmal. I mean, obviously, his lines in the prequels weren't that great. But this guy is a good actor, man. He's a good actor. And what pisses me off so much is that he was brought back after 20 years. 20 fucking years. This was his redemption arc, Disney, okay? This was his redemption arc. And you gave him nothing to do besides, like one flashback, one little hallucination vision that Obi-Wan saw. And most of the time he's walking around in a metal Vader suit, so you can't really tell it's him. I mean, yeah, you could say, oh, yes, it is Hayden Christensen, so your argument's invalid. It is him, but imagine if someone went into this show not knowing who Hayden Christensen was, or it's like fresh off their bat, they'd never seen the prequels either. They wouldn't be able to tell what actor is in that suit unless they googled it, or if it was told beforehand, because you could easily mistake anyone playing Darth Vader for a stunt double or something like that, because Darth Vader in this is played by James Earl Jones. Well, it's James Earl Jones' voice anyway. I'm not sure if it's someone else speaking and it's enhanced to make it sound like James Earl Jones. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into that bit, but yes, it is Hayden Christensen walking around in the suit, but it still doesn't feel like he's there, like he's an essential part of the story, because he mainly just pops up in little bits and pieces here and there. I mean, what I meant earlier by, like, there's great moments and stuff like that, it's that Obi-Wan, for example, he has these visions of Anakin, these nightmares of what went down on Mustafar, and there's one scene where him and Leia are walking through the desert, and then he sees like a vision of Anakin Skywalker, not in the Vader suit, but how he was dressed in the prequels, in the Jedi robes and stuff like that. Obi-Wan saw him sort of standing there in the distance, and he turns around and looks at him and gives him a glare. That was great. There was just not enough of that. I mean, for example, you could take, like, that scene, Connor reminded me of how the Joker sort of follows Batman around in Batman Arkham Knight. That stuff is really great, despite what people may think of the game. But we just needed more of that. And what I mean, like, more moments like that too, it's that, there's another scene where, for example, there's the scene where there's the flashback between Obi-Wan and Anakin and their training, doing some lightsaber dueling and stuff like that. That is really the only time we see Hayden Christensen in, like, full body doing anything, and it passes by in, like, a couple of minutes. But the worst thing is, as well, we don't really get those couple of minutes straight. They're, like, split up between the episodes, so we get, like, a bit here and a bit there. I mean, I get it, right? Hayden Christensen is Darth Vader now, so you can't really have him walking around in not the suit. But I think if you were to bring a little more of the flashbacks to this is what I really, really wanted to see. Just Obi-Wan having nightmarish visions. I want to see this man broken to hell. I mean, he is broken to hell in this and everything like that, but I think they could have amped it up a little more by having more scenes of just flashbacks with Anakin, developing their relationship, what we haven't seen in the prequel so far. I mean, yeah, we did see a lot of emotional moments between Obi-Wan and Anakin in the Clone Wars, but let's be real, the Anakin Skywalker we see in Star Wars Clone Wars is very, very different to Hayden Christensen's interpretation of Anakin. That's just how it feels to me. It feels like they're different, so it doesn't really count. Okay. Let me try and explain myself. Clone Wars is part of the story. It is part of canon. Okay, I get that. But what I mean is, I want to see more Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan and more Hayden Christensen Anakin interacting and developing their relationship and overcoming conflicts and just being the characters that we loved growing up. And we don't really get to see that. I think we as fans really just needed more. I don't think there was enough content in this show to stretch out over 6 episodes. I mean, it managed to stretch out over 6 episodes, obviously, but if you take out all the useless filler and the stuff about the Princess Leia getting kidnapped like 3 times, I believe it was like 2 or 3 times, which got really annoying towards the end. I really think this could have benefited more from like a 2.5 hour movie. Hey, Jim in the editing room. Just something I wanted to add really quickly. Since recording this video, it's been brought to my attention that there actually is a fan-made edit of the Obi-Wan TV show by a YouTuber or TikToker, I believe, I can't remember. Sorry, I forgot that wrong. Called Kai Patterson. He trimmed down the show into a 2.5 hour movie, so I really hope I get the chance to see that, because that sounds amazing. All fairness to you, Kai, that is really incredible. Or maybe a TV show which had 6 episodes which were at least an hour long. I mean, I don't get this thing with Disney where they have like 6 episodes a piece, and it's like they're all kind of structured the same. Like, we get a great sort of first episode, and then it goes really, really boring towards the middle, and then we have like a climactic ending. I mean, you could say that films are structured like that, but there's a few videos that I can recommend on screen right now which explain this a lot better than me in terms of how the MCU, how the Disney Plus shows are structured and stuff like that. And you'll get more insight off them, because I don't really know how to explain it when I'm filming live, but it's just really, really frustrating because there's not enough here. There really isn't enough. I mean, I think we needed a lot more, and more scenes of Obi-Wan and Anakin. I thought Hayden Christensen was just wasted in this TV show, and I feel really bad for him. I mean, there are a huge majority of people that do love this show, and fair play to you. If you love this show, that makes me happy, because at least there's some people out there who can find enjoyment out of it, even though I couldn't. But I just can't let go, I suppose. I can't let go of the fact that Star Wars just isn't what it was. I'm losing hope. I mean, literally, Obi-Wan Kenobi was my only hope, and now I just don't have any faith in Star Wars anymore, other than the games. I mean, I'm really looking forward to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2, if they do make one. I think they are. I'm looking forward to that. But there should have been so much more in this show, not just with the Anakin flashbacks, but Qui-Gon Jinn appeared basically at the end as a Force ghost, played by Liam Neeson. Liam motherfucking Neeson. Sorry, where was I? The cat was being a twat. Anyway, so Liam Neeson appears as a Force ghost, right? But it's like right at the very end, when Obi-Wan has some kind of realization, lets go of his grief and decides to not kill Anakin, which initially, with that ending fight he was going to, you could see it in his eyes, he wanted Vader dead at that point. Liam Neeson appears right at the end and says, "Took you long enough. You couldn't see me because you were holding on to the past," or something like that. What an absolute waste of Liam Neeson, man. I mean, this is Liam Neeson. The guy's a badass. Qui-Gon, while not being the most interesting character in the entire thing, he was still a character that drove Obi-Wan's motivations going forward. He was the one that made Obi-Wan promise to train Anakin. This guy was very, very important to what went down in Obi-Wan's life. And you give him like a 2-second cameo, Liam Neeson cashed in that quick check, and that was it. That is so frustrating. I mean, I really would have liked a little more of him appearing. Like, you know how, despite all of its faults and everything like that, The Rise of Skywalker, when Ghost Luke shows up and talks to Rey, I want an interaction like that. Even if it was just maybe one episode of him appearing, or maybe a couple of times here and there for a few minutes, that would have been great. But now he pops up, and that's it. What an absolute waste. I mean, I don't... What is going on with Star Wars, man? This is crazy. After all this time, we see Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn again. We see Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker again. And they're given nothing to do. And yes, again, you could argue that Hayden Christensen did do a lot in terms of the fight choreography because he was in the Vader suit. But again, brings me back to what I said earlier. You could easily mistake him for a body double if you didn't know that. So that's why it bothers me. Alright, so let's get into a few more things. I think I've gone over the things that piss me off the most. People also really slated the dialogue in the prequels, but to be fair, in this show, while it may not be as wooden as the prequels, it's still pretty bad in places. Like, some of the lines that are said between characters, I thought, this isn't really doing much for me. I'm not really feeling the impact of the moment, and stuff like that. Oh, so before I move on, actually, when I was talking about great moments earlier, before I change the topic entirely, because I'll just keep going back and forth otherwise, I don't really have a structure to these podcasts at the moment, but basically, what I also mean by great moments, I should probably point a couple of them out, and why they're overshadowed by bad moments afterwards. So what I really, really liked was... Okay, so I really did like the fact that Obi-Wan was scared shitless of Vader in their first interaction. Like, he's disconnected from the Force. I mean, in that I think an episode or two beforehand, when he tried to save Leia from falling, he couldn't automatically activate the Force when trying to save her. I liked that Obi-Wan has this disconnect from the Force, that he's no longer feeling who he was, that he needs to overcome that, because it kind of reminded me of the story threads in Jedi Fallen Order, the game, when Cal Kestis has to sort of re-unlock Force abilities as the game goes on, realising different things and growing as a character. I liked the fact that Obi-Wan was scared of Vader, so that's one thing going for it, and eventually how he overcame it. How he overcame it could have been executed a little better, with better writing, I suppose, but overall, yeah, there's that. And there's another scene where, in the climactic fight between Vader and Obi-Wan, the fight we were all promised by Disney, that it was going to be absolutely epic. And while the fight is pretty cool, the choreography is really cool, it's overshadowed by really, really bad camera work. I mean, I don't know quite how to explain it, but there's a lot of zoom-in shots, and the environment around them and the aesthetic of the worlds that they're in is so, like, devoid of life. I mean, the first fight is on, like, sand or something like that. And how many times have we seen sand in this franchise? Tatooine, Jakku, the desert planet on the Rise of Skywalker, which I don't care to research what the name of that damn planet's called, because I don't care. There's that, and there's also the fact that the final fight, where you've got the fight between Vader and Obi-Wan, their final fight is in, like, this huge crater of... not a crater, sorry, like a... God, how do you explain it? It's like an area full of rock and stone and these little stone pillars and stuff like that. And it's at night as well, so the area is very, very grey and devoid of colour. Whereas the camera angles are also flipping all over the place and stuff like that. It's just not fun to look at. But I can see if the camera work was better, if it was filmed like that fight on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith, with those wide angles, those wide shots, you could see what was going on, the characters doing amazing stunt work, maybe a little too overly choreographed. I mean, some people don't like that fight. I personally like it a lot. One of my favourite fights in the entire trilogy and the entirety of Star Wars is that fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan. I love it. I mean, you could point at all the objective flaws you want to, that it looks like dancing and it's too well choreographed, which, yes, I can see that, but my enjoyment is still there. My enjoyment is still there. Get what you're saying, but my enjoyment is still there. But yeah, the camera's flipping all over the place, and you can't really... I mean, you can see what's going on, but it's just like, come on, you can do better than this. I really don't know. For some reason, ever since the prequels finished, like the lightsaber fights in the sequel trilogy and in this new Disney stuff, it just isn't that good. I mean, I really enjoyed the fight in the throne room in The Last Jedi. That was a good fight. But I've missed the over-the-top stuff that the prequels had. I mean, if you really want Obi-Wan to feel like a follow-on from the prequels, could you at least have the fight choreography the same? And I think that's it for, like, great moments, really. I mean, I also really, really liked when Obi-Wan sort of lost his shit and ended up tackling Vader. It kind of reminded me how Luke did it in Return of the Jedi, when he lost his temper and eventually managed to best Vader. Obi-Wan eventually decides not to kill him, but then we see a part where Obi-Wan slices Vader's helmet, and we can see half of Hayden Christensen's face, and we can hear Hayden Christensen's voice along with the Darth Vader voice. That was really cool. I mean, people could argue that it's not very good. I personally liked it. I think it was really, really cool. It was quite menacing to listen to. Obi-Wan is listening to this right in front of him. He can hear his best friend's voice, his brother's voice, along with this evil tyrant that he's become. And that was really cool. That was really cool. But we just don't have a lot of it. And the last couple of complaints I had before I wrap this episode up, because I really didn't expect it to babble on this long. I'm quite impressed with myself, to be honest. Okay, so there's a couple of other dumb things in this show too. I mean, for example, in the first episode, I think, or is it the second episode, there's young Princess Leia. At first I found her annoying, but then I kind of thought, you know what, she's not that bad of a child actress. I think she's pretty good. But yeah, she's running through the woods, and these bounty hunters or something are trying to capture her. And I really don't know how these fucking idiots can't catch a 10-year-old in a forest which he's got wide open and stuff like that. It's like Leia's ducking under all these twigs and stuff like that, and these bad guys just can't seem to catch her. It takes them ages to eventually catch her. It's just really stupid stuff like that. Like, she's 10. You can tell by the shots in the trailer and in the actual show that this girl is not running very fast. You could easily catch her. Like, come on, guys, get on your A game here. What the hell? I also did like the fact that the original actors from Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, who played Luke Skywalker's uncle and aunt, Beru and Owen, were played by the same actors. I really did like how they were still in this. But it's kind of like with Reva as well. I mean, I believe that this actress has got unnecessary hate. It's completely ridiculous. She wasn't that bad. Maybe you could think that her dialogue wasn't very good, her character wasn't very good. I didn't personally care for Reva all that much. But don't attack the actress, man. That's low. Right, so basically, I thought she was okay. I think with a little more padding, they could have done a lot more with her. I mean, again, I keep going back to that same point with padding and stuff like that. She was interesting enough, but like what was executed in front of us just wasn't all that. I personally think that Trilla from Jedi Fallen Order was a much more interesting Inquisitor kind of character, or Third Sister, whatever the hell they call them. And I think that's all I really have to say about the show. There's just a lot of useless filler, which really doesn't amount to anything. There's a couple of great moments which are overshadowed by other bad stuff. There's horrible green screen effects sometimes. I mean, especially the final scene where Obi-Wan is talking to Princess Leia and saying, "I'll never forget you," and stuff like that. They're on Alderaan. The background just looks incredibly fake. It was like prequel fake. Was that intentional on Disney's part? Like, hey, look at the prequels, everybody. Hee. But that's the thing. This is what it feels like with Star Wars and Marvel now. Whenever they make shows or new films, it's just like they're valuing nostalgia and fan value and fan service over quality. You know, like, this character's here. Yay, I remember this character from this. That's kind of how it feels with Disney right now, and that's very, very sad that it's going in this direction. I am incredibly disappointed with this show. Did I absolutely despise it? No, I think I've definitely seen worse, to be honest with you. But this should have been so much more, and I think that's what frustrates me most about some shows sometimes and some movies. The fact that if there's potential that it could have been better and just wasn't, that's more frustrating to me than something that's just outright bad. Something which should be good, but is bad, really, really irks me in a lot of ways. And I'm really, really disappointed. There's going to be a season 2. I should be done with Star Wars at this point. I don't really have any hope, but I'll watch it anyway because who knows, you know, maybe. But to be fair, I don't really give a shit about Andor or Bad Batch Season 2 or Galactic Rangers or whatever they're called. I really don't know. So guys, that's all I really had to talk about today. I just wanted to get a podcast episode out about the Obi-Wan TV show, give you my thoughts on it. I wasn't impressed. I really wasn't impressed. I was going to do a podcast episode where I shoved in Thor Love and Thunder and Lightyear as well, but then I thought, you know what? Lightyear was underwhelming, and Thor Love and Thunder was just completely and utterly dumb. I did not enjoy that film at all. I really can't be bothered to talk about them. Maybe in the end of year annual ranking I will. Alright guys, that's all I have for today. Thank you for listening. If you listened to me throughout the entire thing and you're at the end right now, I really appreciate that. Please consider hitting that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. Remember, it's not just a movie, it's an experience. Take care everyone, and stay awesome.